I'm going to make a bold claim, and I'm going to say you're probably going to learn more from one video, which is about 20 to 30 minutes on this channel than you will in 4 years of college, right? 4 years of college does not compare to a 20-minute video on this channel. Because why? In college, law school, med school, dental school, they don't teach you anything about paying off debt. And then, in our society, we kind of associate school with debt. We don't associate school with getting out of debt. It's just, okay, you get a degree and here's some debt. Do we care if we get it, if you get a job or not? Not really. That's your problem, right? So that's what we're going to do with pay off debt, like we always do. And what's the first step to paying off debt? Which is creating a budget, because your budget is your debt attack plan. Income, expenses, leftover checking and savings. And then your expense breakdown, you list every single debt that you have. And then last line item, you just combine all your expenses that are not tied to debt, okay? And then what we're gonna do here with this debt payoff method that we now call the velocity method, we're gonna take the same income, take the same expenses, and then with our checking and savings, we're gonna set it to zero deliberately, right? And if you want to know the secret to debt payoff, it's really not saving money. That's really the only way you can pay off debt. Now, why do people have trouble not saving money? Because let's say you dump all of your income into a credit card or a loan. Well, you have other debts to pay. And once you dump that money in, especially for that month, then you try to pay the other debts, then that becomes incredibly hard. Right? So what we're going to do is use a line of credit, a personal or a home equity, because that's the only tool we have that will allow us to dump all of our money in while we're paying our debt, right? And then I'm going to make a Family Guy joke where it goes, dump. You guys watch Family Guy? I can't believe they're still making Family Guy episodes. And they're still making the episodes of The Simpsons. I was like, The Simpsons aren't dead yet? But, it is what it is. Maybe I should watch an episode to see how they still are able to produce episodes of The Simpsons and people still watch, I guess. Okay. All right. So income, expenses, leftover checking and savings, right? And we're not going to save money. And then we're going to focus on this cash flow number. And we can increase our cash flow number by simply moving debt strategically into a line of credit. So let's assume we have an 8%, $60,000 home equity line of credit. Now, I know what you're thinking if you're new to the channel, right? And if you're not new to the channel, you'll hear me say this a billion times. If you have a lot of debt, right? You have a lot of debt and you have a little bit left over, will the bank give you a free and clear line of credit? The answer to that is no, because banks don't lend money to people who need it. And according to the bank, if you ever go to a bank and you need money, they will see you as a very bad person and shoo you away, right? That's how banks work. Banks don't lend money to people who need it. People who need money are very bad, according to the bank, because they don't pay you back, right? Remember, you have friends and family who borrowed money from you, and you might have done this to yourself to other people, where you said the magic words, I need the money. Please lend it to me, right? And whenever you say those magic words, please lend it to me because I need the money, that means you're not someone's not getting paid back, okay? So the reason why we demonstrate it with the free and clear line of credit, even though it's unrealistic, is because if we have realistic scenarios, I'm going to be here for 1 hour and 30 minutes and you'll still get the gist of this probably even quicker if I don't do a realistic scenario, right? And then you'll be like, wow, I really wish I had a line of credit and knew the strategy from the beginning. I know most people do, but they don't get lines of credit when they don't need money. Okay. All right. So now let's just go ahead and do this. So we have what we call the cash flow index. Okay. So what is the cash flow index? Just basic formula of balance of the debt divided by the monthly payment. And then it gives you a ranking system. And the lower the number, especially below 50, you want to pay those off first. And you want to pay the highest number off last. Okay, so 209. What does that mean? It means that you have to pay a lot of money in order to get a little bit of cash flow. $235,000 for $1,100 of cash flow. Whereas I could just pay these two credit cards, and I think it's 42 grand for about 1,200 of cash flow. So which one gives me more bang for my buck in terms of cash flow? Well, obviously just the credit cards, right? So we're gonna pay the credit cards off first. So this is gonna be 5, 15, 27, and I'm gonna go ahead and sum it up. And it's gonna be $47,000, 47,000. Okay. And then, right, 47,000. And then the final step is we're going to dump our entire paycheck into the line of credit, take our expenses out, and then rinse and repeat over and over again, right? Paycheck in, expenses out, rinse and repeat over and over again. Now, here's the crazy part, okay? All I did was a debt balance transfer, right? And so you might be thinking, what's the big deal? You just transfer debt. Okay, well, don't these payments go away? 0, 0, 0. And so we literally just turned $500 of our checking and savings. And by literally not saving money, this turns into over $2,000 of cash flow. Now, how do you feel when you see this, right? Because when I see something like this, I'm like, whoa, my mind is completely blown away that we literally went from 500 to 2,000. Okay, so 500 to 2,000. And so now every time we do the final step, put our paycheck into the line, take our expenses out, the balance of the line of credit will go down by 2,000, right? Same income, pretty much same expenses. We haven't changed our lifestyle. And then we just we'll just keep paying it off. So G2 plus H2 minus 2018.33, and then we're going to take the interest, and the interest is based on the average daily balance, 0.08 divided by 12. All right, so I'm just go ahead and copy and paste, and then we see that in 26 months, this is fully paid off, or the line of credit is. All right, so now 26 months. All right, and I'm just going to do this. This is going to be, what is it? This is going to be 47K. So 47K, and then I'm going to do this for all three. And then this is going to be auto loan, student loan, and the mortgage. So in 26 months, right? So I just put this in the loan calculator, and actually 26, 26, 26. I need to redo these figures again because it was for a different demonstration. 35,000. Okay. And so now these are the current balances of these loans. And if you don't know how loan amortization works, basically there's only three factors that determine what the payment amount is, right? And then that's the fixed payment amount for the life of the loan. Now, you can actually calculate what the balance is if you know how to set this up correctly, where you just put in the month, and then this will give you the cash flow index. This will give you the latest balance, and now you have basically a system to figure out which loans to pay off in which order, right? And then so you just take a look here. Most people would be focused on the 7%. Student loan, 40,000, 7%. Okay, and then most people would freak out that you would try to pay off the 3%. Now, why are we paying off 3%? Low cash flow index means pay a little bit of money for decent amount of cash flow, right? Whereas here to get the 460, we got to pay like 3 times that, okay? So let's go ahead and do that, and then move that into Z line of credit. And then I'm just going to do this, and then plus 11869.8. And then let's go ahead and increase our cash flow. So this is going to be 395.31. And then this is going to be 2,400. And I'm going to do this. All right, so control value minus 2413.64. And then this is going to be 30 months. 30 months, and we paid off the debt. All right, 30 months, and then this is going to be 47 plus 22, and then it's going to be 69K, 69K. And then now we have the student loan and the mortgage. Yeah, so let me just go right here. So it's 30, 30, and then this is 0. And then now we can focus on the 7%, right? So we paid off the car loan. Let's focus on this student loan. Rule of thumb here, if you have a relatively high cash flow index, we'll just say above 50, and the interest rate is lower than the line of credit, um, you want to use a method called chunking or sweeping, right? Moving a piece of the loan into a line of credit rather than moving the whole loan into a line of credit. Now, given that this is a 7% loan and we're moving into 8% line of credit, not a really big deal, although you might be slightly overpaying, but this is what I'm going to do. For this one, I'm just going to move the entire loan into a line of credit, into a G line of credit, right? So this is going to be plus 32447.34. And then this is what I'm going to do. And then this is going to be 0. And so now our cash flow is over $2,800. And I'm going to do this and copy and paste. Minus 2878.07. Copy and paste. And then whablam. Okay, so now you see that in month 43, we paid off that debt. Yeah. All right. And so I'm going to be like this, 43 months. And it'd be I think it's 109K. Yeah, 69 plus 40 is 109K. And then we have the 30-year mortgage, right? So that's $235,000 of the 30-year mortgage. And now in 43 months, I'm going to do this, 43. And then now this is 219,000, 4%. Do we move the 4% loan into the line of credit? No, because this number's too high. So anything usually above 50 means that this number's too high, especially above 100. That's kind of like, don't do it. Don't move the loan into a line of credit, especially if there's a huge interest rate difference, right? So we got to be careful about that. If the loan has a same or higher interest rate than the line of credit, then we're fine. Like you can move the loan in the line of credit. You're not going to be in a worse position for doing that, right? And I have seen several instances where like certain loans were actually higher than the line of credit. Like the line of credit might be 6.3%, and then a loan might be like 7. Okay. And I just say, well, in that instance, you can move it into the line of credit, right? So possibly. So, a lot of times people are afraid of using 8% lines of credit, even 15 or 30 to pay out the 4% loan. And I get it, right? Because you do have the default option. The default option is just make extra payments, right? You just make your monthly payment and then make this $2,800 as an extra payment, which is a default. But the default option is kind of like, we already know that nobody does it, or else everybody would be debt free or mortgage free, right? If it's the option that nobody does, that they say that they're going to do, kind of like going to the gym in New Year's, right? It's actually the cheapest option to go to the gym in New Year's, but it's the option with the highest failure rate, right? And why is that? Is because people have been, let's say, socially conditioned that they can't overpay credit cards or loans. I mean, think about overpaying even a credit card, even though a credit card is technically a line of credit. You can't, once you put all your cash into a credit card, it's very hard unless like plastique.com to pay like other loans, and then, paying off other credit cards requires balance transfer or cash advances, which is really inconvenient, right? So you don't want to deal with that. Okay. So this $2,800 of cash flow that we can just essentially put into a line of credit and we should be fine, right? And one of the main reasons why I say, hey, you might want to do this is because you don't want to stop the segregation of your income, right? Like people don't understand when they overpay loans and then they start getting other debts to kind of because they couldn't figure out how much to overpay the loan, which is actually really hard, right? Because expenses vary from month to month. Then they end up getting confused. And then they're just saying that the confused mind does nothing, right? But, I kind of came up with like a decision matrix of why extra payments really nobody does, because it leads to decision fatigue, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to sweep some of the loan into line of credit and just do what we've always been doing, putting our paycheck into the line, taking our expenses out. And to be honest, It's pretty much the same result, but it's just easier psychologically. It's an easier system to execute. Heck, it might cost more a little bit, right? So I've always made the example like if you had a 0% 30-year mortgage and use a line of credit that's 8% to pay it off for one day, you've essentially overpaid, right? Like you can, if you use that line of credit for one day, you've overpaid. But I'm pretty sure a car with seatbelts costs a little bit more than a car that doesn't have seatbelts, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to move, let's say, $6,000 of this loan into the line of credit. So let me just do this right here. So remember, the cash flow only increases for loans when it's completely paid off. So 6,000. And then we see that in about 2 months, it gets paid off, right? Every 2 months or so, that 6,000 gets paid off. And look at that cost of using that line of credit. It's only 20 bucks, okay? Or at the max. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use this calculator right here, okay? We're going to use this calculator. And every time we have a huge, like, amortized loan, where we can't, or we're in a position we don't move it in the whole thing into a line of credit, we can still see the results of still using a line of credit, right? 1121.93, 1121.93, 30 years, and then the interest rate is, what is the interest rate? 4%, 4%. And then the current balance, we just go to right here, which is 219,373.34. So 219,373.34. And then this is going to be all right. So let me just go back here. Monthly income, which is $6,000. And then the expenses is everything except for the loan. We're trying to pay off 2,000. And then you can play around with the sweep or chunk amounts. I've come to the conclusion that as long as it's a relatively low amount, it's not going to make a difference. So if I do 6,000, right? And then at 8%, and I do 5,000, I bet you this is barely going to move, right? So let's just compare 24,626.57. And now let's do 5,000. Yeah. See, hold on. Yeah, it's just a couple $100 difference. Now I have seen it where if you increase this goes down a couple $100 too. Sorry. And so you could just play around with it, but I'm just going to pick a round number of 6,000 and then just do it over and over again. I mean, a couple $100 is really just a blip in the bank's balance sheet, so I'm not going to obsess over that. But 5.2 years, right? So we see that this is 0, and this is 43 divided by 12 plus 5.2, and then this is going to be 8.78 years. Okay, 8.78 years, and then we are completely debt-free, right? And so where are we at? 18 minutes. That's what time we're at. So yeah, I mean, again, I probably have taught way more in this 18-minute video than probably 4 years of college, right? They'll never teach you this in college. I mean, the banking system doesn't want anything more than minimum payments on everything. And they certainly don't want to teach an easy method of paying off the debt, because they all know that if they teach you, hey, just make an extra payment to your loan or even a credit card, people will struggle. That's why nobody ever overpays a loan or a credit card, right? But you overpay a line of credit, you have the ultimate flexibility of moving your money to different places. Okay, well, that's it for today, folks. This is Korean Atlanta Mentorship here with another video. Let's see if I should do a live stream today. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.